Today we're simulating the Sonic the Hedgehog strategy. This one is interesting because even though we're playing at a casino that charges the VIG up front, we still end up with a house edge that's under 2%. And while most of the bots didn't win or lose a whole lot of money, over 17,000 of them were able to double their investment. We're going to go through all of these stats and more, but first let me introduce myself. My name is Matt, and here on DiceData, I run simulations of crap strategies. I program 100,000 bots to play a strategy over 10 shooters, and then I generate all kinds of statistics that we could examine after the run. I do this because when I first played craps, I felt like there wasn't a whole lot of information about what I could really win or lose, and what it would cost me to play the game. If this is interesting to you, I would greatly appreciate if you would like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's a small thing, but I am a small channel and I'm trying to grow, and every little bit helps with the algorithm, so thank you very much. First, we're going to go into the strategy and how it actually works. Then we're going to look at win rates and the amounts won first by hand and then by session. Then we're going to go into bankroll analysis, so I have some new information here for you. We're going to see actually how often the bots were able to double and triple and quadruple their investments. Next, we're going to go into the bet details so you can see which bets actually contributed the most to the overall wins and the overall losses. And finally, we're going to look at the data from the casino's view. So we'll see the total amount bet, we're going to see what the house take was, and of course, the overall blended house edge. Let's dive in. Sonic the Hedgehog was submitted by Brad Schwartz. This is designed for a $25 table, but it can be scaled. First, you start off with a $200 don't pass bet. After the point is set, then you place $160 across. The 4 and 10 are going to be buy bets for $25, and in this example, like Brad's home casino, we are charging the VIG up front. After hit number 1, we're going to remove the bet on the 4, and we'll also bump the point number up from $25 or $30 to $100 or $120, depending on if it's on the 6 or 8. After the second hit, we're going to remove the 10. After hit number 3, we'll spread back on the 10, and after hit number 4, we're going to spread back onto the 4. Hits 5 and 6 are just collects, and then we'll power press from there. And the overall strategy is going to reset at the end of every hand, whether the point is made or if there's a 7 out. Let's replay one of the sessions and see how the strategy works on the table. Now, just note I'm not going to be calling out any of the numbers. I'm really not a great stickman, so I will see you at the end of it. Feel free to skip ahead to get to the data. All right, there we are. I think that's enough throws of the dice to give you a good sense of how the strategy works. Now let's get into the statistics. Let's first look at the data by shooter. We have 1 million bots and 64.1% of them won money. On average, those winners won $114. 35.4% lost money, and on average, those bots lost $245. And just a small handful pushed, which means they neither won or lost any money at all. Let's find out how much the bots won or lost during a shooter. The most any of the bots lost was just under $3,000, while the most won was almost $14,000. Here's the distribution, and what's notable here is that most of the bots are actually pretty tightly packed together. 90% of them are between a $445 loss and a $285 win, but there are some long tails, and there is a potential for some pretty big wins. I think a lot of that is coming from the power pressing. Let's find out how much it costs the bots to play for each individual shooter. This is the outlay, and what this is how much the bots actually outlaid out of their own pocket to play. The minimum was $200, that's for that first don't pass bet, and the maximum is $3,472. Here's their distribution. Again, on a per shooter basis, the bots are outlaying an average of just about $500 on each individual shooter. Now, most of us aren't going to play craps for just one shooter. So let's see how the bots did over a session of 10 shooters. Now we can see that the proportions start to invert. This time out of 100,000 sessions, only 44.1% of them ended having won some money, and on average, they won just over $500. 55.6% lost money, and on average, they lost about $650. And there are a very small amount of pushes. Now let's see how much they actually won or lost during their session. The most that any bots lost was $4,225, while the most won was $13,920. Here's the distribution. The median is just a loss of $100, and again, we see a relatively tight distribution, especially given those long tails. Now let's look at the bankroll. Now, the way that I do this is that in the simulation, I track each bet that the bots make, and I determine whether that comes from their pocket, like it's new money being introduced to the table, or if it's actually coming from some winnings or even a bet that they took down off the table. The minimum that any bot outlaid out of their own pocket was just $200, and the maximum was $4,777. Here is the distribution. You can see the median $882 and the average just under $1,000 there. The 25th and 75th percentiles represent the middle 50%, and the 5th and 95th percentiles represent the middle 90%. All of that is good, but I also like to break it out by hour so you can get a better sense, because most of us probably aren't going to play exactly 10 shooters either. And the way that I do this is I figure out how much that outlay is per roll, and then I average that based on these different table speeds. So at 100 rolls per hour, we're looking at an average outlay of $1,168, and so on. Now, this is an average from the simulation, so it's going to give you a good idea, but you're still going to need to make your own decisions when you go to that table and make sure that you have enough bankroll to survive as long as you would like to play. All right, this table tells us how the bets did compared to their investment. So if you look at the top line, it's telling us that 43.8% of all the bots won at least 1% of their investment. 40% won at least 10% of their investment, and 17% doubled their money. They won 100% of their investment. I also offer custom simulation services. You give me your strategy, I will simulate 100,000 bots. Go to dicedata.info/services and you can see the pricing and the availability on there, and it'll give you everything that you ever wanted to know about that strategy. In the Sonic the Hedgehog, we made a couple different bets, right? We had a don't pass, we had place bets, we had buy bets, and this chart tells us exactly where our winnings are coming from. 56% of our winnings are coming from the don't pass bet. The next top bets are the place 6 and 8, the 5 and 9 follow that, and the buy 4 and the buy 10 come after that. Now I have a similar chart for how the bets contribute to the losses, and here we see a very, very similar distribution, right? Most of the losses are on that don't pass. That accounts for 55% of the total amount that was lost by all the bots. Now let's find out what the casino thinks of this strategy. The total bet was $847 million, with $434 million won by the players and $448 million lost by the players and won by the casino. That's an overall house take of almost $17 million, and a blended house edge of 1.986%. Well, that's all I have for you today. Special thanks to my patrons and subscribers, and I hope you all have great luck at the tables, and thanks for watching.